One of the things that philosophers have historically really liked doing is trying to come up with proofs of God's existence. There are zillions, and I'm exaggerating, probably not zillions, but there's a lot of famous proofs of God's existence. Now, if they'd actually been successful, we probably still wouldn't be having debates about it, but they're cool to study, and I think the coolest one has always been Anselm's ontological argument. It's called an ontological argument because it proves that God exists just by nature of God's being. So he starts his proof out with the claim that I think anybody can agree on regardless of religious background. That claim is as follows: God is that than which none greater can be conceived. And while that's kind of a simplified version of what he says, we can simplify it a little more and say, God is the most perfect thing that you can think of, right? Not granting existence there, just saying the idea of God is the most perfect thing you can think of. Got that? Okay, let's put a pin in that. We're going to push that to the side. Okay, so let's think a little bit more. Tell me, what's more perfect? What's better? A God that's powerful and cares about you and exists, or a powerless make-believe God? Which is better? I gotta say, it would be better to have a powerful God that loved me, that existed. That just seems obviously better to someone like me. I don't want something useless that's like a crutch. Well, now you're locked in. Looks like God exists. You didn't even know you did it, did you? It just happened. Here's the deal. Think of the best thing that you can think of, the most perfect thing without flaws. Okay, that would be what we just said, a God that exists. A God that is the most perfect wouldn't have the flaw of not existing. Therefore, the most perfect God that you can think of is the God that exists. Now, if Anselm had been 100% correct with this proof, we wouldn't be having any more debates about whether or not God exists. But a monk named Gaunilo, we'll say it that way, undermined the proof. And keep in mind, it was a monk, so he has the same religious background as Anselm. He just wanted a better proof of God's existence. Here's what the monk thought about. He said, look, if your argument is really going to work, then I should be able to show that pattern works in a variety of circumstances. So let's think about the perfect island. What would the perfect island have? And for me, it would have free hotel, free airfare, free food, and it'd be like just an hour away or something like that. Now, the most perfect island would be one that had those characteristics and actually existed. So if I think about it, does that mean that island exists? No, it doesn't. So something's a little amiss. Something's not quite right in Anselm's argument. That said, I've always thought there was also a cool parallel between Anselm's position and something that happens in the book of Exodus. You may remember that there was a guy named Moses who had an interesting conversation with his deity, and it went something like this: "Hey, who are you?" And the deity replied, "I am that," or who, depending on the translation you read. "I am that I am." That is, God said his name was I am. And if you say your name is I am, then you have to be amming. You have to exist. Your name is existence. So Anselm maybe have been a little inspired from some biblical text, not sure, but the two parallel really cool, I think. So I probably didn't convince you to embrace any particular religious belief here, and that's okay, because really my only objective was to talk about reasoning, and that was kind of cool reasoning, and to talk a little bit about Anselm, who is a classic historical figure. So we got 2 wins, even if we didn't get the God thing down.